Morning Express is what you're watching right now, right here on KTN, and thank you for staying with us right here. And today being Wednesday, we talk about relationships. And yes, I know there are some of you that might be wondering, okay, ready-made man, what are you talking about? Let me just sort of draw the picture for you. And most of us do have an ideal partner that we're looking for. And for the ladies, normally they're looking for security, somebody at least who can take care of them. And this is where the ready-made man comes in. For them to be ready-made, chances are they're in a relationship, or they could be married and, you know, have a good job. And I've heard the saying that the best are already taken. And that's now where we begin our debate. Are we getting to a point in our society whereby ladies are actually accepting, and it's becoming the norm, that it is okay to be, well, there are various names. There's chips funga, there's side dishes, there's second wife, there's mpango wa kando, there's all sorts that we use to describe that other lady. But initially it was deemed to be almost taboo for a lady to be in that position, but it's slowly evolving, if I'm not wrong, to a point where now it is becoming almost acceptable that she is okay. You're married, that's fine, but you carry on with your marriage and I'll be okay on this side, so long as once in a while, you know, we hook up. So that's why we're talking about the ready-made man. And on the other hand, we have what we'd call the hustler man, who is suffering because, well, he's looking for a job, he's still not driving, possibly not as well cultured as the other one because he's not had the experience, and he suffers because he hustles for a job and hustles for a wife. So is that where we are in society? And feel free to give us a call and you know, let us know. Maybe you are in that kind of a situation where you've accepted that it's okay, or you feel that no, that is totally unacceptable, or maybe you are in a relationship like that and you thought it was okay and you changed your mind over time. We'd love to hear from you. The phone lines are going to be open. You can also get in touch with us via Twitter, and that's at Michael G. Gitonga, or at Sophia Wanuna, or at KTN Kenya. Now, I have with me two guests who many of you may know, and I'll start off with Chris Hart, who is a relationship expert. Good to have you in the studio once again.
Great pleasure.
We also have Ken Ouko, who's a sociologist. Welcome. Now, Ken, I'll start with you. Is that where we are as a society? Have we accepted that it's okay to, you know, have a side dish, mpango wa kando, whatever they're called? Are we becoming polygamous in a way?
Second wife is a very polite term.
Okay.
Yes. Those are the ones that are not nice. It's not where we are, but it's a trend. It's something that's emerging now, and society tends to adapt, you know, to these forms of behavior when they emerge, and so we have to like embrace it and live with it. And what happens with, you know, behavioral tendencies is once it picks up, then it gets imitated, and other people start to realize it's actually okay. The concept of the new Kenyan woman, like I always call her, the evolved one, is she feels very little about taboo and social hang-ups and all those things that are supposed to bring a woman down. She, as long as she's comfortable in a relationship, a lot of times she will tell you, I don't mind what else comes with that relationship, as long as she's comfortable. So the Kenyan woman, the new one, has become very assertive, and she's very, you know, very able to define her place, and that's why they're finding it okay. So if you try to tell her otherwise, she'll tell you, I'm the one who knows, and that's how the story ends. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, is it an issue of the women accepting, or is it an issue of the men just, you know, being, there's been this notion that men are generally polygamous, you know, by nature?
I think men are. I mean, if you look at the way we're built to be polygamous. So
what do you mean? How are we built to be polygamous?
Well, the way men are constructed, the way women are constructed, physically, yes, it's perfectly clear that we were designed to be, if not polygamous, at least to have affairs and to get up to mischief and so on.
How do you justify that? How?
Well,
because there's no difference between the way we are built and women, apart from maybe
it's in the genes, my brother.
Yes, it's all in the genes. I mean, it's evolved because people, for example, men can have vastly more children than women. The world record for the number of women, for the number of children that a woman has ever had, is about 60. The world record documented for a man is over 1,000, and there are tales told of men who've gone way over that number. Now, it therefore pays a man to have lots of partners, and so evolution kits him out to do that. Now, that's really at rock bottom. If you then look around the societies of the world, you find that polygamy is very common. Whatever you care to call it, it's extremely common. It's by far and away, the number of societies that are polygamous far and away outnumbers the number of societies that are not polygamous. So although we live in one which is notionally monogamous, we're in a minority in the world. Then on top of that, you have to look at what's going on in people's lives. If you choose a society where everybody is pretty equal, almost everybody has the same income, then monogamy is the rule. Every woman on earth, I think, given the option, would prefer to have a man of her own. But in any situation where she can't find a man of her own, she's willing to share. Now, the situation arises exactly as you've described it. Why would she marry a guy who's unemployed? What advantage to her and her children is an unemployed husband?
They grow together, you know.
Yes, lovely, but she's feeding him. Well, no advantage to her. To be blunt, she wants support. She wants somebody to help her rear her children. So there's a big pressure on women to choose men who have an income. Now, if a high proportion of young men are unemployed, she'll have to share. And so she does. And that's what you see all around the world. Any situation where there's a big disparity in income between rich and poor, high male unemployment, you'll find people doing precisely what we're talking about.
Okay. Do you agree with Chris that it's in the genes of men to be polygamous, or is that something that we're just generally accepting as a society? I'd love to hear from you. The phone lines are open. And Ken, first of all, do you agree with that it's in the genes of men? And unfortunately, this conversation is being had by men, so it could sway to one way. But do you agree with that?
I totally agree. You know, there's this thing about the masculine instinct that makes a man become a brooder. You know, like he's got to take care of 1, 2, 3, and sometimes it's not necessarily a marital spouse. It's like he says, you have a wife, yes, but you know there are other things happening in your life. If you look at the global population, we're talking about 4+ billion women and 2.7+ billion men. Yeah, so it's like almost every 2.5 women to 1 man, if you look at the demographic reality. And at some point in time, it looks like then, if every woman were to hang on to 1 man, then about 1.7 billion women would be manless, so to speak. So what we are saying is that for the man, he's got this tendency to imagine and to think that it is a God-given right for him to take care of this other 1.5 woman that is out there in the world. And the women in the world today are now realizing that, you know what, the monogamy thing, it's beautiful. It's covenant, like they call it in the Bible, but it's not. It's probably the most boring thing on earth. So therefore, let me let the man who wants to be monogamous, I mean the woman who wants to be monogamous.
But that surely is a very general term. I'm sure there are those who are in a monogamous marriage and they're happy. It's blissful.
You know,
they're okay with it.
I think, truthfully, anyone who succeeds in monogamy, they're in the happiest possible place.
Yes.
I don't think anybody disputes that.
Yeah.
If you are lucky enough to find the right partner and it all works, it's heaven on earth. But the fact remains that for a lot of people that's not possible. And so then, you know, you have to make your bed and lie in it. You have to do what you can with what you have available. And if you can't find a man of your own, what's the alternative? Well, you either stay celibate for the rest of your life, have no children. Well, I'm afraid our genes are not built to stay celibate. You know, celibate genes go extinct. So we have all the genes that allow us to make decisions like that, and we make them. And you have to bear in mind, I think you were implying it in a way, that the moment you find yourself in a position like this, you start to make the best of it. You start to say, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
You might have preferred something else, but you've made your decision.
slowly accept it.
You accept it.
Yeah.
And the more people accept it, the more acceptable it becomes. And so it becomes a change in society. Societies do change. They may do it slowly, and we may always keep saying, oh, it was better when I was young, but the fact remains, it changes. And at the moment, it's changing dramatically.
And of course, the actual reality is that the modern woman, especially the career-oriented woman, believe you me, has no time for domestication. Yeah, that's a fact that they all accept. They don't even hide it, you know. So they're telling you, here I am. I don't want to go into a monogamous marriage where the minute I leave my office, and probably my office is more demanding than the man's, and probably I leave later, but I still have to go and get domesticated at home, sort him out, you know, look at his socks and underwear, cook for him. Nah, she's not in that league anymore. So she's looking at this man who will be there, yes, for the show, you know those social intimacy things, and the guy is their quote-unquote husband, providing, but she's got her space. She's doing her thing, and when the guy is available, she caters to him. When not, he's sorted out on the other side. And so the modern, that career woman is actually finding this second wife thing, quote unquote, very appropriate, very easy. Yeah, it's very convenient for her. And believe you me, for the sake of the show, she will tell people, I'm married. Yeah, which is what, like he says, celibacy is a pretense. It's something people will tell you, I don't care. I can live the way I am for the rest of my life. But it never works for you. Somewhere when you go down to your bed, especially women, the maternal instinct creeps in at about the age of 30, and you start asking. And then once you stop asking yourself, society also asks, where's your child? And then you say, no, I'm okay, but you're not okay. You know, so they'll look for someone, and that someone, believe you me, they don't care if you're married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chris, what brought about the change? Because at some point, it seems like, it was almost, it was believed, and I'm sure there are many who'd argue with the fact that men are genetically wired to be polygamous. What brought about the change to where now we're actually accepting it? Or rather, there was the polygamy in the olden days, then it changed to monogamous marriage. Now it looked like we are going back to polygamy.
If you look around the world at different societies, you see different forms of relationship between men and women. If you look at, for example, hunter-gatherer type populations, especially the ones in completely stateless societies, what you'll find is the men compete like crazy. Men have a 60% chance in their lives of ending their lives through homicide. So the remaining men have all the women, and the men effectively have competed for the women. You look at societies which are heavily agrarian, in other words, everything's to do with property, the land, the farm. Suddenly you find that the wealthy men monopolize the land, and suddenly the man can have the women because he's got the fields. And so you see tremendous polygamy in any situation where it's completely agrarian. Move into towns and cities, and a sort of equality starts to develop. It starts to become monogamous.
Yeah.
And then you move beyond that to the point we're now entering, where women can be completely independent, where it makes every bit of sense in the world for a woman to pursue her career up into her 30s. Of course, suddenly she doesn't want to marry. If you marry, your career takes second place. And so suddenly she's faced with a choice every year. Do I get married or do I go for the next promotion? Well, when she's young, she goes for the promotion. When she gets to 33, 35, she begins to think, perhaps it'd be nice to have a family. Now she's got a problem because all the men have got married. All the men who are going to get married round about the age of 30.
And they marry younger women.
And they marry younger women.
Right.
Dead right they do. And the consequence of that is that by the time she's looking around, all that's left are the people who couldn't get married, the men who couldn't get married, because the women wouldn't have them for some reason, unmarried men. Now, she's got a dilemma. What can she do?
Those
There
are the only
are
options left.
no single men over the age of 35 that can be married. They are either unemployed or worse, or they are the sort of guy who's become a permanent bachelor and props the end of the bar up and preys on the women who turned up from the village. You know, she doesn't want to marry one of those either. So she hasn't got a choice. She literally hasn't got a choice.
She has to look for the decent man, and that decent man is already taken. Yeah, so therefore she has to clutch on to, to that reality.
And the reality is, it has always been like that. In the past, it was the guy who had the most fields. Before that, it was the guy who survived. You see what I mean?
Or the guy with the most
It's not
cows
an
and
accident
bulls.
that if you read the histories of 3,500 years ago, the guy was called Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and Laban and all the rest of it. How many wives did they have? It's not an
700.
accident. It's not an accident.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you think about it, before you go to the next whatever, in my class, I tell students, I have over the years discovered 22 different marital arrangements. In fact, I usually just give my first year class about 12 of them. And out of those 12, you realize that only 2, could conform to normalized expectation, man, woman, vice versa. Most of them is plural. And that plurality is, in fact, extended to the female. That there's one man, like among the Hopi of India, a man marries, but then he's given all the sisters of the wife. And then all his brothers will benefit from that arrangement somehow. Because they're
It's
trying
like a
to...
communal thing.
Yes, they're trying to bring it to par.
You know, what he's saying is absolutely hilarious, because the truth is, I think this happens in every society, doesn't
Yes.
it? You grow up thinking the way you live is the only way.
Until you discover.
Until you start doing a bit of anthropology
Yeah.
and sociology and psychology, and you go out and you look at all these other societies and you discover, actually, there are literally
Options.
lots of options, huge numbers of options around the world, and lots of societies have gone another way.
Yeah.
All right, Ken, so now what happens? What's the fate for the hustler man who is, and I'm sure there are very many, and I'm just calling them hustler, not in a derogatory manner, but to mean that they're starting off in life. Maybe they've just left college, and I'm sure there are very many men out there who are really good, but have not been given the chance. What happens to him? Because by the time now he gets to a point where he's got a job, he's driving and all that, the potential bride that you'd have had
Has evaporated.
is long gone.
I don't think that's true.
2011, 2012, again, we did some survey, Nairobi, especially college students, the relationship they have, and if they ever bird into marriage. Yeah, and you realize that they really fall in love with each other while they're in school. But then the minute they get to 3rd, 4th year, the girls start thinking, this is not taking me anywhere. Yeah, they look for the higher calling, so to speak. So the guys are left standing in the rain. Because you're there providing for all the manly relational needs. But then when it comes to marriage, she starts thinking, okay, I need a man who has a car, I need a man who has a house. I don't want to go and start doing higher purchase with
In
this
short,
guy.
security.
Yes, so the hustler is this guy who then starts getting frustrated and probably, rebels against the established order. And he says, good, that's where you're seeing the emergence of the younger man marrying the older woman, because it's the younger guy now kicking back and saying, fine, let me also look for another arrangement. And then he's also sorted. So he also goes and gets an apartment in Kileleshwa or wherever. The older woman is paying, and then everybody's asking, what's happening in Kenya? But it's just life. Everybody is like living it. So the woman in college, especially the ones we looked at, the ones in campus, up to 3rd year, they're in those relationships.
With a fellow colleague.
With the fellow colleagues. From the time they're entering 3rd year, 2nd semester, they start looking outward. So these guys are left alone and they're thinking, okay, where did the rain start?
But normally the argument is that the men are immature, they're not grown up.
People make arguments like that. It's not true.
It's not true.
This is a rationalization. Why is this woman, chucked her boyfriend? She's got to make up a story. And so she makes up a story. He's
To
immature.
justify it.
Yes. But the truth is, she wants a guy with a bigger wallet, a better car, better career, more sophisticated, guy who's been around the block a few times. Why wouldn't she want that guy? He's got a lot more to offer.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, what does the young guy do? Well, he has to succeed. There is no other route for him. If he wants to have lots of children, he needs to succeed. He needs to develop his career, his education, whatever it takes, so that he becomes the guy who is the one the women want. It's always been like that. It's no different to a bunch of buffaloes banging heads together. The one who wins gets the,
that stays
gets the
alive.
cow. Yeah, you get it. It's exactly the same amongst humans, but we have this gloss that we put on it, that we make it look, it's all to do with, maturity and da-da-da-da-da. It isn't. It's the winner takes the spoils.
Winner takes it all. Ken, whatever happened then to people growing together and looking at a guy and knowing this guy has potential, given, because sometimes you can tell that somebody is visionary, he's got direction, he's focused, and he looks like he could be somebody. Because even those who are successful today, at some point, they were not.
From somewhere, I know,
Yes.
I know. But the dating game has changed quite a bit. Long ago, just take the example of the fact that your date mate had to be approved of by your family.
Correct.
If not your daddy and mommy, big sister, big brother. These days, your daughter shows up on the last day and tells you, this is a guy I'm marrying. And you're wondering, where did you get him from? Because you never even heard of him. Yeah, and then she tells you, I have made my decision, so live with it. You know, and then there's
because
this,
she's independent.
yes, there's
she
this
can do
human
it.
rights thing
She
and
can do
freedom
it.
to do what I want. And believe you me, the younger guy who's also growing up, like Chris says, that's his biggest motivation. He says, then I need to also show that I can do this. And once he starts surviving, he you know, focuses more on his career, education, or whatever it takes. In the meantime, he relegates the woman because he's already been scarred earlier in life. So then you find these guys floating around at the age of 29 to 35, you know, really working hard and trying to drive a nice car and having no time for women until now they're stable. Then now they also hit the market again. So it's like a vicious cycle. You know, the woman goes the other side and the man comes this way. And the problem with that is that then the guys are also like learning to rebel against this nature of behavior that women have adopted. But women think it's a style. That now, you know, this is the new Kenya, this is the new world. And you believe you me, like he says, it's just a justification. They'll come and tell you, you know, guys who are still 29, they don't think straight, they're a bit, but she's looking for that guy who, when she comes home, the guy is okay. You know, earlier on, Chris was saying, the ready-made man, that concept. This guy is already either married, divorced, or he's been there, done that. So half the time, this woman is sure in the evening, he's either home reading his novel or doing his thing. He's not looking up there.
He's been...
He's calm, yeah, you know, and he's already like invested in 1 or 2 apartments. He's okay, and all you need to do is sign a power of attorney, change one to her name, and she's good. Yeah, but you can imagine the younger guy who she has to now go and start
Still
thinking
even
mortgage,
trying to discover
HFCK,
himself.
you know, you do blood tests and all those things together. She don't want that crap. Yeah.
Okay, so Chris, do you see a point, do you see us going back in society where you have, you talked about the hunter-gatherer, which is, you know,
Yeah.
the traditional, really Stone Age
Yeah.
man, where you have the man is the career man and the woman is at home, homemaker, I think they call it. Do we ever see ourselves going back to that?
If society finds itself in a place like 1950s America again, then suddenly it will become hugely monogamous and the women will all stay at home and become housewives. You know, it's just a question of what's going on in the wider society. In 1950s America, there was an enormous growth of wealth, 100% male employment, and huge salaries. Suddenly they could afford to have a woman at home, and it became the style. Later on, everybody is struggling. You have to have 2 incomes in the house and so on. So women start to enter the
Job
workforce.
market, yeah.
And so that becomes a trend away from that. If the trends ever took us back to 1950s America, we'd go back
Then it
to
can happen.
the same situation
So
again.
it's highly unlikely, according to you.
Oh, very unlikely.
Very unlikely.
But that's what goes on in societies. The way human beings behave feels like it's been like this for 1,000 years, but no, it's not. It's constantly changing, and it's evolving according to, bluntly, economics.
Okay, Ken, you mentioned earlier on, you know, when a lady was to get married, there was a family involved, and that has also changed. Do you think that maybe the family has also a part to play in where we are today, given that previously one of the fears that the lady would have had is, I cannot be seen with a married man or even a divorced man in some cases by my family, but that slowly has no place.
The world in general, human society has become more, you know, legally liberal and morally permissive, and a lot of things happen. But just take the example of these gadgets that we have. These days, your son, daughter locks himself up in the room and does everything on the phone.
Right.
Yeah, long ago, for that woman or girlfriend or boyfriend to see them, they would either have to call your landline, which everybody picks because it's in the sitting room. If you have to talk, it's right there.
Or throw a stone on the window.
You know, we know what you're talking about.
Climb up
And,
to the balcony.
you know, and for you to meet, you'd have to arrange it like a day in advance and say, tomorrow, Kenya Cinema, such a place, such a time. Yeah, but that doesn't work anymore. So therefore, the family has been edged out in terms of that responsibility. And if you look at the evolution of the family, I'm Oscar Good, there's a guy, William Good rather, there's a fellow called Professor Nye from America who writes on the evolution of the family and says that the roles of the family have largely remained the same. It's just the methodology that has changed. Yeah, your mother will still be your mother. When you're going to Nairobi for the first time, she'll tell you about all the wrong men. The only problem, like I always say, is when you come to Nairobi, those are the men you meet, the one your mother tells you against. You know? So you're like, you're the one my mom wants to be against, but it's every man on the street is the one your mom wants you against. So it's just then you have to take a step. And I think the only thing we need to remember here is that the modern woman has become very willy. She's very, sorry to say, crafty. She knows how to get her thing. And in the process, she retains her freedom, which the traditional woman didn't have. Yeah. Once she has that freedom at home, she knows you're here today, tomorrow you're not there, and she can, you know, call her friends, they go out.
Okay. Before I come to you, Chris, I'll take a call from Ruth. Good morning, Ruth, and to your comment or question.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, Ruth.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I have been brought up in a very strict family, and stories to do with men have been quite an issue, a big issue.
Okay.
I'm 25 right now, and working. Yeah, it's really tough getting a good man because I think maybe people say that you're now growing old now. You don't need this kind of man. So I'm this kind of person who is focused to stabilization first, and then get a man later, a man to have a family, to help me get a family.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's your question?
It's quite a challenge getting someone who is serious. Yeah, at my age, things have really changed.
All right, okay. Thank you, Ruth, there who's 25. We also have Gladys in Kahawa West. Thank you for calling, Gladys. Your comment or your question? Gladys?
Yes, hello?
Yes?
Yeah, my name is Gladys from Kahawa West.
Yes, go right ahead, Gladys.
Yeah, I just wanted to contribute. I'm 30 years, and this issue of ready man-made or the younger man, I have gone through all this. I've dated that ready-made man, and I've dated the young man. And what I say is that I think it's not about man-made or the one that is hustling.
Okay.
So my question is about even that man-made man.
Ready-made.
Ready-made is not yet to take care of me because he has gone through so much. Maybe because that man maybe has stated on his divorce or he has gone through tough times. So he knows a woman what wants. But this young man, if you can grow with the young man and you grow together, at least this man will be able to know what he wants or to take care of me. That is my contribution. I don't see the difference about the young and the ready man.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gladys.
Yes.
Thank you very much. We also have Martin from Thika. Thank you for calling, Martin. Your question or your comment?
Now, I have a question, Now, you have been with a lady, let's say, for 2 years, Then now you have worked together. You have, for 3 years, you have worked together, gone through thick and go through thick and thin together. But after that, she started complaining you are too busy and having negativity in life.
Sorry?
And having negative comments about now the mutual respect you had.
Okay.
Yes.
It's like your relationship is going down the drain.
Yes, down the drain, and when you look back where you have gone, you have come from, it's a very painful, and it's a very hard path that you have gone through.
Okay. So what's your question, Martin?
Yes. My question: Why is the immediate change of situations?
Why do women do this to us?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Martin. Why do women do this to us? All right. We'll start with Ruth, who's 25 and has grown up in a very strict family, and she says it's difficult for her to to get men today. But she also made it very clear that for her, she wants to first of all, have her career cut out, then look at marriage later. What would your advice to Ruth be?
Well, her problem is this. If she goes out into the dating world telling the world that she's going to focus on her career, then the man who's looking for a wife at that point will not include her in the search, because he knows that she actually won't be ready to marry until her 30s and won't want to start children until into her 30s. Right. Not the woman he needs. So if she was going out and saying, I'm ready to marry and I want to have children now, there'd be a queue forming at the door. But if while she remains focused on her career, they're not interested. So her strategy should be either decide to start a family now, or put family on the back burner and not go looking for men to marry right now, because there aren't any available. In 4 or 5 years' time, if her focus is beginning to shift towards family, they'll be there.
Okay. Ken, let's move on to Martin, who has been going out with this lady for 3 years. They've gone through thick and thin, but suddenly he feels there's a change. And the question is, why do women do this to us? I think is what he's trying to ask.
Yeah, I think women tend to open their eyes at some point, and they realize, like we've been saying during this show, that what she wants is not immediately available there. Yeah, she'll get all the emotional and all the social attention, but mostly, believe you me, mostly they come down to upkeep and the economic angle, where I have to be comfortable, and that comfort means that even if she's going to push on with her career or do whatever, she's guaranteed of the basics. Yeah, the mistake most of these women make now, which could probably be where Ruth is at the beginning, is they have a checklist. You read Mills and Boone and you read all these books, and then you say, okay, I'm going to look for a guy like this. The people who do that end up with the exact opposite of what they're looking for. So you have to let life take its course, and if you're dating this guy, like the situation Martin is in, if it's been that long and you make those commitments, then you have to hack it. You have to stay in that commitment. You see, the problem is then you have a woman who will tell you, I'm willing to do, like Chris says, she's offering to start a family, be domesticated. The minute you settle and make that commitment, she starts saying, hold on the baby thing. You know, and then the man is left there very frustrated, and then the rest of society, including your own brothers and sisters, they start asking you, where's the baby? And then you go home and you tell the wife, and she says, you listen to what people say? No, this is just us, you know? And you keep having this nasty argument with her about the baby, and then your mother tells you, you're never supposed to argue about a baby, it will never come, so keep quiet. Then the woman is okay because she's in her place. She's already put you where she wants you to be, and then the baby thing will wait for another 3-4 years. But in the meantime, you have to answer very difficult questions to society. Guys even begin to doubt your manhood, you know, in the process. So whenever these things happen, women tend to then put us in a box, which is their main ambition today. If you meet any woman who's like, she knows what she wants in life, she'll tell you, I need to put my money in a box. Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, I think it's unfair that we've been having this discussion just as men. Yet there is a lady in the house, so I think I'd like to bring her in and hear what she has to say. The expression on her face is $1 million worth. So, Sophia, do you have questions, comments? Is there anything you'd like to, sort of bring us up to speed?
I hear a lot of what the guys are saying and completely agree. I mean, it's the truth that most will not admit to themselves, Michael and Ken, as well as Chris. The ready-made man is very attractive, and I liked what one of you said, that many a times the girls will say, oh, it's because the younger ones, the 29-year-olds are immature, but that's not the thing. It's because they're not quite measuring up in terms of the economics of it all. But a great conversation this morning, and we will be wrapping up shortly. I think at the end of it all, you have to look out for who you connect with in a deeper, better place, that no matter what, whether the money is there, and they say it when you're getting married, the vows, in good times and in bad times, through sickness and health, when you can be with someone and connect with them no matter what, then yes, that is definitely a good match.